Alrighty, here we go. It is a brand new Flyers Daily for the 9th of April, 2025. Flyers Daily brought to you by Ticketmaster. Make more memories live. Flyers will finally be back in action tonight. I feel like they just haven't played any games lately. Why? Because they haven't really played any games lately. This is crazy, but they're back at it tonight on the road in Madison Square Garden against the New York Rangers, who, I mean, they won the President's Trophy last year. We know what happened to them in the playoffs. I think I said on this podcast, that's a team that I would run it back with. It's hard to win a cup. Let that team have another crack at it. Well, there's a lot of noise there in the offseason and about guys getting moved and being on the market. Big names, obviously, Jacob Trouba being one of them, and he is out of there, which I thought was odd. They had a great year last year. This year, it's been a hot mess from the jump. And I think we're going to see major, major changes in New York. Peter Laviolette finishing up year 2 there. Probably a coaching change, probably a GM change. Some stuff got out that Chris Drury should have never let get out. And it really kind of just uncorked their season right from the gate. They've been kind of a mess, and they have not been good of late. It's the Flyers' final games of the season. Final 5 in New York tonight against the Rangers. Back home Saturday, they'll take on the New York Islanders in a matinee at 12:30 at Wells Fargo Center. Then they'll head up to Ottawa to take on the playoff-bound Senators. How about the Sens? They're getting it done. Columbus, then at Wells Fargo Center, will be the home finale on Tuesday, April 15th. And then the season finale will be in Buffalo on the 17th, a week from tomorrow. God, I can't believe there's only 8 days in the season left. A week from tomorrow against the Sabres will put a bow on the 2024-25 season for the Flyers. What have the Rangers done lately? Well, in their last 10 games, boy, they've been just falling apart as their playoff lives are on life support. In their last 10 games, they're 3-6-1. They have losses on the schedule to LA. They lost to Anaheim in overtime. They lost to New Jersey 4-0 this past weekend, and then lost at 5-1 to Tampa on Monday night. Also lost to Toronto, Calgary, and Edmonton. There's no shame in those. Those are good teams. Problem is all 3 of those games were at Madison Square Garden. They beat the Canucks, they beat San Jose 6-1, and they beat Minnesota in overtime. They've been a hot, hot, hot mess. As far as the players leading the way, we mentioned Jacob Trouba no longer there. He has been shipped out. Leading the way, though, once again, is Artemi Panarin in 75 games. He's got 83 points, 34 goals, 49 assists, 16 power plays. It's just Artemi Panarin-like numbers. He hasn't been the issue. Adam Fox is their second leading scorer on the blue line. That's part of the problem. A D-man is your second leading scorer. He's got 56 points in 69 games. What happened to Mika Zibanejad? He was a flyer killer. Mika Zibanejad, only 17 goals, 35 assists, 52 points, a minus 22 on the season. And then Vinny Trocheck's got 52 points. Alex Lafreniere has got 43 points, 16 goals. Just hasn't really come together. Chris Kreider, 20 goals and 5 assists. Been healthy scratched in just, for Kreider, just 63 games this season. What about the goaltending? That's been a huge element for the New York Rangers. And Igor Shesterkin, very average year. A .903 save percentage, a .289 goals against average, a sub 500 record of 25, 28, and 5. They just haven't been as good. Jonathan Quick, who is a good backup, they extended an .898 save percentage, a team save percentage of .902. What does that tell you? Well, they're not playing good defense. They're not playing structurally good defense. They're not this year outscoring their mistakes. And they're not getting that stellar goaltending that bailed them out. 2.97 average goals per game this season, 17th in the league. So it's average when you look at the amount of goals they give up. Again, about average, 14th most in the NHL, slightly on the backside of average at 3.08 goals per game. So the Rangers, what are they? They had the supposed rebuild. They sent out the letter a couple of years ago. Then Panarin jumped into their lap. Shesterkin came along. Adam Fox forced his way to New York. And their rebuild was not very painful. It was very short. Looks now like they've got to really do a rebuild. They have got some young pieces. Fox is a good player. Lafreniere still needs to come along. They still have Shesterkin, and he's got an enormous contract that's going to kick in. So where the Rangers go from here, we shall see. Are they one of the teams that could be descending in the Metropolitan Division, or can they recoil fast with some changes? I don't know. I thought that Washington was going to be a team that would be descending this year, like Pittsburgh, and their window was closing. Washington's been incredible this year. They've had an amazing year. I think they're absolutely a legit cup contender. Can the Rangers recoil? We'll see. But this Flyers in New York tonight to take on the Rangers. Before we get to some of our key pieces of info in this episode, let's get to a few comments from yesterday's episode. Then we're going to get into Jared's email regarding the Flyers solving their 1C problem from within. John messaged on the YouTube feed, what a cool guy Nick Seeler is. Yeah, high praise for Nick Seeler. Robert said, Nick Seeler is a class act, a great example of perseverance and hard work for young kids. I'm an older man, and I got psyched by the interview. Time to go to work. Have a great day, Jason, and everyone listening. Yeah, I agree. Nick Seeler got me pumped up, too. That's the benefit. Is Nick Seeler one of those top D-men? No. But he brings a lot of intangibles to that locker room, motivates teammates, keeps teammates together. It's a good example of perseverance. Having him on and hearing him, speak from the gut and speak from the heart is awesome. Michael said, I'll never forget during Tort's first year when Seeler scored an incredible goal against Edmonton. Yeah, he dipped in along the left side of the blue line and just kind of deked a guy and went bar down. It was unbelievable. It was very un-Nick Seeler-like. He said he is by far my favorite core Flyers player, and his journey and his faith are a testament for others to pursue your dreams no matter what they may be. He's an inspiration for all of us. Nick Seeler from Duane is a great core player, part of the team. Team build, go Flyers, go. Be well, Jason, my brother. All the best from Calgary, absolutely. Yostification. We love Nick, true Flyer player in the Philly fan eyes. Nice job, Jason. Hope you're feeling well. Keep the faith. Always in my prayers. Let's go Flyers. People really reacting to that Nick Seeler interview. So that's great. That's why we have him on. Part of my job with this podcast is to create this avenue for the viewers, the listeners, for Flyer fans to see the other side of the guys they root for on the ice, to see the human side. That's why I say I don't do interviews. We have conversations. I just want to talk, and we just talk about it and we see where it goes. Sometimes when people in my business get into interviewing, they have their interview set and they don't listen to responses. Therefore, they don't mine further, like mining as in like coal mine, further based on a response and just have a conversation. They just want to get to their next question and they miss a huge opportunity. I love having Nick Seeler on. He's a great talker and he's as sincere as they get. A couple more emails that came in. That's Eugenius said, this is one of my favorite episodes from you. Wise words from you regarding the Flyers past, present, and future. Thank you. Went on a little rant at the end of yesterday's episode about holding this regime of Danny Briere, Keith Jones, and Dan Hilferty accountable for past regimes and how that just doesn't make sense to me. And frankly, it's not fair to them. I can understand the whole thing about, hey, we've had a lot of be patient and, we're building towards the future and all that. But this regime is in year 2. And next year will be the year, I believe, they will start adding. Before we get to Jared's email regarding the center from within, I wanted to bring up a couple of things real quick, because this is something we're going to talk about in regards to Matvei Michkov. You always hear me say, I love when he attacks the middle of the ice. And what he does when he attacks the middle of the ice is he just opens up a lot of options. Options for an offensive player is advantage because the defense has to account for all options. Therefore, they can get spread thinner. They can fall back and get tighter and open up other areas. And that's what attacking the middle does. So I wanted to bring this up. I remember bringing this up to a team that I was coaching years ago. This was a study done back in 2016 by the Ontario Minor Hockey Association based on NHL data. And it's the science of scoring. How do you score? Where are goals scored from? What kind of shots are they? And as you see in the graphic, if you're listening to this and you want to watch it on YouTube, you can see the graphic. But it's the science of scoring. And what it does is it tells you exactly where goals have been scored from, the most effective shots to take when those goals are scored. Now, the most effective shot in the NHL to score goals is the wrist shot because it You get it off faster than a slap shot. It's more accurate. But where do you got to go to get the goals? We always say go to the house. The house is that area right around the crease to about the hash marks. That's the house. That's where the most goals are scored from. 10 to 20 feet from the net. 34% of the goals in this study were scored from that area in the house. 21% were scored from the goal line to 10 feet out. So if you take that a little bit further, you're going from the goal line to 20 feet out. That is 55% of the goals are scored from that area. That's incredible. That go get bodies, get pucks to the net, rebounds, tips, cross ice plays, backdoor, all those things. That's the science of scoring. And that's why going to the middle and getting the puck to the middle is so important. Now, the most efficient shot in the area from 0 to 10 feet, still the wrist shot. Backhand is number 2 there because it's in tight. You're not going to see a backhand from, outside of 20 feet that's going to beat many goaltenders. And then the tip in is 16.9%. From that area, 10 to 20 feet from the net, where 34% of the goals were scored. The wrist shot, again, 53%. Backhand, 14.4%. And the tip, again, these tips, they're hard for goalies. That's a high danger scoring chance. The most effective shot from 10 feet out to 30 or 20 feet out to 30 feet out, still the wrist shot, until you get out, the high part of the zone, 40 to 50, 60 feet to the blue line, the slap shot becomes the shot of choice from that range. 59% of the slap shots from 50 to 60 feet out, goals that were scored, only 5% of the goals are scored from there. That's easy pickings for a goalie. When you bomb one from the point, if there's no traffic, every goalie's going to eat that alive. No matter how hard your slap shot is. Al McInnes, Shea Weber, Al Iafrate, whoever it is, goalies will eat that up. When you move a little closer in, still the slap shot, 43% of the goals, only 7% scored from there, 11 from that intermediate distance as well. So that's the science of scoring. That's where you got to go. And it's going to come into play when, we talked about the Matvei Michkov part, and here you see just 49% of the goals in the NHL came from wrist shots. 10% came from a deflection, 12% off a slap shot, 14% off a snapshot, and 9% off a tip in. And then there's other, and that's where it bangs off your leg or whatever it might be. So that's the science of scoring. All right, let's get to Jared's email. Jared emails me quite a bit, and I didn't even realize for a while there that he was a guy that was on Twitter that I used to go back and forth with. He's a former goaltender, which we love. And this is Jared here with his kid. He said, I caught some pods during my commute, and he had some things he wanted to say based on what I was talking about when I was talking about Michkov going to the middle of the ice quite a bit and how I liked it. So now Jared puts together emails that are very detailed. They are based on data, eye test, and a lot of things. He said a few bits of food for thought. If you ever wanted to have a fan episode on the pod, I'm in. First, he has some thoughts on the Flyers' next coach, talking about that David Carl said it doesn't make a ton of sense for where the Flyers are in this process. He said spending all of Tort's tenure drilling into this group how to be a pro, then hire an amateur coach would be odd. I think you can get away with that, but we'll see. He also said, I don't think Briere will go with a retread like Tocchet. He said, in my opinion, the next coach will be a Brind'Amour Carberry mold, kind of a guy that steps up and has worked his way up into that role. Rod Brind'Amour did that through the assistant ranks, as did Stefan Carberry. He said, a former player who is still young, they need a foxhole guy, but with AHL and or NHL experience, also would need to be a more offensive mindset rather than a defensive guy. I agree with that. I think that that's the route they'll go. An AHL guy or an NHL assistant, a guy that knows the routine of the pro, not coming from the college game, knows the grind of 82, knows how to manage it both in-game, practice, on ice, off ice, the personalities of professional athletes. And you got to manage that too. You got to manage personalities, egos, players from different countries and different beliefs, all that. You got to manage all of it. Jared goes on to say, I really think Alex Tanguay would be a good fit. He checks all those boxes in his tenure as offensive power play system for Detroit. They flipped their power play ranking from nearly the bottom to top 5. 2021-22, they were ranked 26th. Then 22-23, 17th. 23-24, 9th. And this year, they're 3rd on the power play. He said he also did some media work for NHL Network. I wonder if him and Keith Jones know each other. They may have played together in Colorado. Maybe Danny. I don't know if Danny played with him or not. I'd have to look that up. So next subject from Jared. And we talk about Michkov. He said there were quotes in the pod that grabbed my attention about Michkov playing left wing or right wing. And I said Michkov's a positionless player who plays in the middle on that line on Matvei Michkov's game. He knows when to move into the middle of the ice. It's one of the best elements of his game. That's what I said, and that's what he's reacting to. So he said, we're going to do a little experiment about shot location, heat maps using NHL Edge data, and I'm going to redact the names, but I will, however, show you Michkov's data first. So this is Michkov's data. This is where his scoring chances come from. Now, mind you, he has played right wing the majority of this season, probably like 92%. And 13% or 13 of his scoring chances have come from the right side, 14 from the high slot. And this is the area that we're talking about, the science of scoring, in the middle of the ice. 28 have come from the left side, despite being a right winger for most of this season. Also see the dead angle, the sharp angle opportunities. 12 on the left side, 9 on the right side. Positionless. He is positionless in the offensive zone, and that's not a bad thing. You want a guy that's not predictable for a team to defend. Predictability helps teams defend. I mean, the numbers behind the goal, or south of the goal line, 9-8 scoring chances, 9-8-1 are insane. That's a huge number of scoring chances from below the goal line. And then out high, he's got a few, but he tends to move to the left side of the ice and favor the left side of the ice when he gets into the zone to create. Now, he is a left shot, but he likes to play right wing because he wants that stick in the middle of the ice, and he probably migrates over from the right side to the left side when he goes to the middle. So here's the heat map of some other players in the NHL. We don't know who these are. These are different guys around the league, top forwards in the NHL. They wanted me to try and match these up to see who they were. I'll save you guys that project. But again, here's Michkov, and we see the 28. That's his highest area of scoring. Look at Nathan MacKinnon, Eichel, McDavid, and Draisaitl. They're areas where they do their damage. MacKinnon, very close to the net. Eichel, very close to the net. McDavid, Draisaitl, all get in tight. That's where they do their damage. But again, look at left side, left side, left side. And for Draisaitl on a right shot, right side. Very interesting. That's the data on those guys. And then you have a second grouping of players where you got Marner. 20. You see, you got to go to the middle of the ice. Pasternak's in there as well. Pasternak, right-handed shot, but he is really well evenly distributed. Look at Kucherov. Doesn't do anything below the goal line, but does all his work here along the wall. He doesn't attack the middle as much as Michkov does, even though they're very similar as players. So Jared said he dropped the data into a table to make it more clear. Yeah, I said I added the totals from the left wing, center, and right wing of the ice, and then looked at what percentage of those shots were from the middle. The leader in the NHL is Connor McDavid, 187 total. A percentage from center, the center ice position in the middle of the zone, 0.49. Michkov, second in the NHL, attacking from the middle, 181 total, 0.44. Then you got Draisaitl, Marner, Pasternak, Kucherov, Eichel, McKinnon, and I'm assuming this is Kyle Connor. And then a few more for reference, Bedard at 0.36, along with Celebrini and Crosby at 0.50. That's incredible data. That's in the middle. And he compares more closely to centers than he does wingers. So this is where he gets into his argument. He says his initial take is that the number of shots below the goal line is hilarious. And I agree. It is. He believes he can score from anywhere, from the bench. He's playing and shooting from the middle of the ice more than some of the top centers in the league. You saw where he ranked. More than all the elite wings in this very small sample. He's playing and shooting from the middle and, going there a ton. In terms of quantity, he's most similar to Connor McDavid in this sample. Not saying he skates like McDavid, he plays, but where he attacks is like McDavid. He said in terms of quality, his data compares most similarly to Jack Eichel's, another center, which is interesting for a host of reasons, not the least of which is that most fans would say the Flyers need to find a center like Jack Eichel this summer, an elite top of the draft C who needs a change of scenery. What if the change of scenery is not from outside, but it's moving Matvei Michkov to the middle? Okay, I think we've talked about this a little bit Bill and I have talked about it. He said, my first idea in terms of finding the data-driven ways to compare Michkov positionless play to other players around the league and looking for trends, there's not another way to look at it. This is the data from his sample. He said, I think Matvey should move to the middle. The Flyers have their answer at 1C, and he's wearing number 39. And then he talks about some quotes in here from Ivan Demidov on Matvey being a very versatile player when he was in the KHL. Also, some other data on faceoffs, and he could learn that. And goes on to say that he thinks that it would make Briere's job a lot easier if the 1C is already here. If you can check that box, it's like the quarterback in football. If you don't have the quarterback and checking that box, you're looking for it. You're not going anywhere until you find it. The 1C is relative, same type of importance, like a goaltender or a 1D. So is the answer Matvey Michkov? He moves to center. Now you're not looking for a 1C. You're looking for a 2C, or you're looking to find the right wingers to play with him as a center. Is that the answer? Now, while the data is great and it does compare to centers more than it compares to anything else, my position is that no, I would not move him to the middle. You go, well, the data supports it. Why not? Well, here's why. I think he's a better player that works from the outside in than from the inside and staying, entering through the middle. Now, as a center, you don't have to enter through the middle. You can enter on the flank and you can move to the middle. I know. But I think he's better as a player, as a winger, when he attacks the middle, because that creates an outnumbered situation, causes defenses to collapse, and opens up a lot of things. I would not move him to center because I also do not want to bog him down in the defensive zone and the neutral zone with the responsibilities that a center has to carry. And whether it's an offensive center or a 200-foot Selke winner, you have more responsibility in the D zone and the neutral zone as the center than a winger does. I don't want him to have to deal with that. I want to accentuate his biggest strength, which is his offensive game. And I'm not saying he's not a good defender. I think he is a good defender. He's an instinctual defender because he reads plays well. But I don't want to bog him down with any of that. I want him attacking from the outside in and be a monster that way. The way like Panarin is, the way Kucherov is on the wing. Your top point guy doesn't have to. Your best player doesn't have to be a center. Your top line, and Michkov's on it, the best player doesn't have to be in the middle. You can have them on the wing. So I would not move him to the middle. That's my opinion. I would not move him there. I would keep him as a winger, positionless in the offensive zone because of that nightmare that it has created, continues to create with the remainder of the season, and will create for many years to come when he attacks the middle of the ice. But that being said, since you have this incredible star dynamic playmaking, scoring, offensive weapon, the center that I put with him doesn't have to be a guy that's going to get 48 goals and 50 assists like Nathan McKinnon or like Jack Eichel. Then you're going to go McDavid. You don't have to have that kind of player with him. He's going to create offense on the top line. It's got to be a good player that's got offense that can finish, and when you set him up, do those things. But he doesn't have to be a 100-point guy to be your top line center. It allows you to shape your team a little bit differently. We'll see if that's the route Danny Briere goes. A lot of that obviously depends on who's available via trade, who's a target for offer sheet, who's they're going to draft or sign as a free agent. A lot of those things go into the equation. But Jared's email laid out a great case, but I'm not moving him to the middle. I would not. What say you? Would you move Michkov to the middle? And why? I think he's great as a winger. I think he could play center, but I think it would come at a little bit of cost to his offensive game. And in today's NHL, I don't want to pay the price. I keep him on the wing. I find the right center to play with him, and the other right winger, I don't mean right or left, but the right guy on the other wing to play with him as well and have a super dynamic, creative line that can play positionless hockey in the offensive zone. To me, that's how you accentuate the skill set of Matvei Michkov. Love to get your thoughts. If you have thoughts, drop them below in a comment. If you're watching on the YouTube feed, you can always email me, jason.myrtetus@gmail.com. Or you can also shoot me a DM on X at JasonMyrt, JasonMyrt. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Make sure you ring the bell, subscribe, like this video, or if you're listening, leave us a 5-star rating and review. And we'll recap Flyers Rangers coming up tomorrow on a brand new Flyers Daily.